Hello everyone, welcome to Mohan's Teaching Corner. Today we are going to discuss about the education psychology, which is relevant to your deputy education officer as well as M.Ed, B.Ed and other competitive examination. So let us have some comprehensive exploration of the education psychology, which is applies to teaching and learning process. So definition of psychology: it is a scientific study. Psychology is a scientific study of mind and behavior, and it is a mental process. So examining the thoughts, feelings, conscious and unconscious phenomena. Then this is also related to the human behavior. It is going to be analyzed how humans interact with their environment and with each other. So here, like definition of psychology, we can say that education psychology. So education psychology is the branch of psychology which is concerned with the scientific study of human being learning, the effectiveness of educational intervention, the psychology of teaching, and the social psychology as a school organization. So it applies like psychological principles to educational setting. Okay, it focuses on how students learn and develop their interaction, and it is going to be examine the teaching method and learning environment. So this is all about the education psychology. So the importance of education psychology. So in order to give effective teaching, so it helps the teacher to understand how the students can learn and develop appropriate teaching strategies. And while teaching, the teacher come to know individual difference. Not everybody is the same. So it provides the insight into the diverse learning needs and abilities of the students. So every student is different from others and their learnings are different. So by considering all those things, the teacher can make teaching effective well, and it is the learning process. So the education psychology explains about the cognitive process involves in acquiring the knowledge and skills, and apart from this, this also guides the assessment. So how one can effectively evaluation the students progress and evaluate the methods, and how can be measuring the outcome of the students results. So the importance of education is effective teaching, individual difference, learning process and assessment. Then relation between education and psychology. So psychology provides about the theoretical foundation and research method, where in education we are going to apply the psychological principles and practical teaching context and like development. So the psychology is understanding the growth patterns and inform the educational approaches. Then it comes to the learning. It is a central focus on connecting with the both disciplines. So the role of a educational psychology in teaching. What is the role of education psychology in teaching? It informs like curriculum design and instructs the method. So it makes the foundation for the how to design the curriculum and how instructional method should be framed, and it also helps the understand the students motivation and engagement. This education psychology guides the how to make the classroom management, what is the techniques to manage classroom properly, and it is also guides the and address the learning difficulties of the learners, and it also supports the to develop the assessment, different assessment strategies. So these are the role of education psychology in teaching. So nature of education psychology. Introduction. So education psychology is the distinct character that defines the approach to understand teaching and learning process. So in the education psychology, to understand how the teaching can be done, how the learning process happens. Okay, so the nature of education psychology encompasses its scientific foundation, practical application and focus on human development. So overall human resource development is the main factor of this education psychology. So nature and scientific applied nature, the scientific foundation. So education psychology is the scientific foundation. It is based on systematic observation and experimentation. So uses the empirical research method, develop the testable theories and learning. So it applied discipline, okay. So translates the research findings into classroom practices, develop the practical solution to the education challenges, and brings the theory and real world teaching context. So nature and focus on human behavioral learning. So the education psychology mainly focus on how human behaviors, how the learning can be done. So if we say about the behavioral focus, it studies about the and observational actions also. Here it is mentioned. Then how environment shapes the behavior of an individual, and the how how the student can be engaged in the classroom. So how this environment, okay, this responses, this pattern of the students engagement, which is going to be focused in behavior and cognitive emphasis. So it investigates the mental process of learning, and it studies the memory, attention and problem solving, explore the how knowledge is constructed. So the education psychology goes in two ways. One is focusing on behavioral focus, second one, it gives the importance for the cognitive emphasis. Then scope of education psychology. So education psychology encompasses a broad range of areas related to the teaching and learning process, okay, across different educational contexts and development stages. So every child has a different stages of development, and it's mostly related to the teaching and learning process. Then scope of learner centered area. What is the scope? How the learner can be developed. So one is human development. The development includes the physical, cognitive, social, emotional growth patterns, okay. Then human can be developed in all the ways, that it is physically, cognitive, that is mentally, and socially, emotional growth pattern. It concerns the education psychology concern about the human development and intelligence. So it also different types of intelligence and their measure, how it can be done. Motivation, what is the factors that motivate the students engagement and preferences, and it also considers the individual difference. So everybody have the different ways of learning, different abilities, and they have the special needs. These are the scope of the learner centered areas: human development, intelligence, motivation, individual differences. Then scope and learning process of classroom environment. A learning process here, learning, how the learning can happen, theories of knowledge acquisition, memory and information process, transfer of learning, problem solving strategies. So learning process. Then classroom environment, group dynamics and social interaction, classroom management techniques, teacher student relationships, and learning space design. So methods of education psychology, okay. Education psychologist employs various scientific methods to study learning process and educational phenomena. This research approach helps to generate reliable knowledge about the teaching and learning. So the different ways of observing the students, like here, one is the observation method. So here the teacher is going to observe their student. So observing students in their natural environment without any intervention. So the teacher is going to mingle with the students, and she is going to observe the behavior of the student. So it is a structured observation using predetermined catalogs, categories and checklists to record specific behavior. So participant observation, research participant in education setting while observing. So these are the method how one can be observe the student and access the learning patterns. So observation method. Then method to experimental method. Key features are in experimental manipulation of variables, controlling experimental groups, pre-test and post-test measurement, statistical analysis of the results. Then it comes to the application. Application means testing teaching methods, evaluating educational intervention, comparing learning approaches, measuring instructional effectiveness. So this is experimental, where different methods are experimented, like how different variables, whether it is environment, whether it is the family issues, whether it is mental disorder. Okay, so they are going to consider all the things and comparing the different experiments. They input different approaches. Okay, then they compare them. This is the experimental method. Then it comes to case study method. So it is a case study. Personal records of the students can be observed, the detailed examination of the individual student and classroom or schools, and multiple data resources. The data can be collected through observation, interviews, documents, and assessment. Rich content, so provides comprehensive understanding of the complex education situation. So this can be done if the student is why he is not performing well. That particular time, the case study method can be obtained. Then method, interview and survey method. So in order to access one student, it can be done through interviews. Structured interviews, predetermined questions. Some questions are before the interview is prepared, and according to the question will be asked. Then semi-structured interviews, there is a flexible type of interviews, flexible type of making questions, and in-depth interview exploring the specific topics. In order to get the more insight of the student and his cognitive level, they take the exploring specific topics. Then survey method. Here what happens, they take the questionnaire, and they measure the attitude and perception and rating scales for the quantity data collection and online survey or large scale data gathering. Then psychological testing. Okay, different types of testing. Achievement test, measure the knowledge and acquired through education. Aptitude test, it can be acquired, like accessing potential of learning, development specific abilities. Then personality test, evaluating about the SWOT analysis, like strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Okay. Then intelligence test, so measuring the cognitive abilities and intellectual functioning. Then application of education psychology in modern teaching. How can be this education psychology can be applied in modern way of teaching? So differentiated learning. So only single method is not works. When you are teaching with the diverse people, you have to take the different approaches to meet the diverse learning needs of the students. Then teaching technology integration using the digital tools, like on cognitive learning principle. Social emotional learning, so developing cognitive non-cognitive skills along with the academic context. Then data driven decision making, using the assessment results to get the instructional improvement. So here what we have learned, what is education psychology, how it is going to be a bridge between theory and practice in teaching. It provides the scientific understanding of learning process, and it also multiple research method. We already learn observation research with the different types of method we learn. Then future direction, it is going to be like education psychology is going to be integrated with the neuroscience and technology. It focuses on the inclusive education and diversified culture people, how they can get the education, that is the thing. Then development of the personalized learning approaches, so different people have the different way of learning. According to that, through education psychology, one has to opt the different ways of approaching the student and teaching methods different, like as per the student cognitive level. So here what is that, understanding how students learn is the first step towards helping them so reaching them full potential. So thank you for watching my channel. Okay, do subscribe and get the more insights about the psychology, philosophy and other examination related content. All the best for your coming examination.